Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about our upper receiver AR15 build. Now, if you have been part of the channel and part of this journey for a little bit, you'll know that we started with our upper receiver, but because I live in the middle of nowhere, we had to kind of pause X on that, switch over to the lower receiver, and do work on there. But just yesterday, all my upper receiver parts finally came in, so we are going to jump back to the upper receiver and finish that bad boy up. We're going to be talking about our ejection port cover. This guy is a little bit tricky to set up, and honestly, if you can get to this ejection port cover before you actually put the barrel on or anything like that, I would highly recommend doing that, just so that you have two different avenues of approach of trying to install this bad boy. Now, I didn't have that luxury, so combat arm skills are going to have to come into play here. But if you can avoid that, I would recommend avoiding that. Now, whenever I actually upload this up into the build series playlist, I'm going to make sure that I put this forward assist guy in there first, because honestly, it's a doozy. Now, before we jump into this build, there are a few parts and pieces that we're going to need. First and foremost, you're going to need your upper receiver. This is mine right here. Isn't she coming together just so lovely? Answer's yes. Next, you're going to need your parts. So this is from Bravo Company. This is just an ejection port cover. It's got everything in there that I need. You can get individual pieces if you need, but I needed all of it, so that's what this is. Lastly, you're gonna need some needle nose pliers, because we have a C-clamp in here that even little midgets can't grasp with their hands. So get you some needle nose, something easy to be able to push that C-clamp on there. There's gonna be some unconventional tools that we're gonna need along the way, and when we get there, we'll cover those. But for right now, all you need is your brain, upper receiver, parts. Let's get it. All right, so the very first thing that we're gonna need is take this guy out of the package. So let's get right into that. My package right here is keeping that C-clamp separate, and I highly recommend if you keep it separate, just know where it's at. Use a little magnet tray or something. I'm not going to take my C-clamp out just yet, but let me explain this guy to you. So the way you want to set this up is pretty simple, yet it's complicated. So of course this rod's going to go all the way through, and as we said before, you have a small little indent that's going to go towards the barrel. That's where your C-clamp goes on, and that just holds it in place. So that's the easy part. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to set this spring up in order to create spring tension with your ejection port cover. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to place your ejection port cover in place, and then you're going to start to feed this guy through. Before you go all the way through, then you're going to have your spring already set up in place. Once your spring is set up in place, then you're going to push this rod all the way through to the very front of your upper receiver, placing the C-clamp in place. That's basically what's going to happen. So there's your quick setup. Now let's talk about how to actually set this guy up. If you notice on your spring, there's a way to create more spring tension. You kind of turn it clockwise into each other. So the spring itself, the long spring, will be up against the inside part of the ejection port cover, while the short side of the spring, you're going to rotate 180 degrees so that it's actually pressing up against the upper receiver itself. So when you put that into place, it'll look like this. I have to hold it in place, and I hope you guys can see this. It'll look just like this. I turned this piece 180 degrees. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fish this guy all the way through as carefully and as best as we can without getting the spring out of place, because this is where it gets difficult. There we go. Okay. So as you can see, this is kind of how we're doing it here. Long spring up against the inside of the ejection port cover, short spring touching the upper receiver itself. You're going to have to kind of finagle it, be very gentle. It is a small spring. It is a thin spring. And as you push, your ejection port cover will fall more and more into place until you go just like that. Boom. Now you're going to, before you get everything locked in, you're just going to check your work. Make sure when you close it, it closes. And when you open, it just shoots open just like that. Okay, so now this is where your needle nose pliers come into play. You're going to get your C-clamp Well, first you're gonna push this guy all the way forward until you can see your little indent for your C-clamp. In my case, I can't push this guy any more forward and it's right there on the edge, barely poking out. Take your C-clamp, be very careful, don't lose this guy. You're gonna grip the top of the C-clamp with your needle nose and you're literally just going to pop this guy right into place. Unconventional tool, because I don't have the right needle nose. We're gonna push down, there we go, until it clicks into place. Usually you have those needle nose that kind of like go down and you can just push on there. This guy, I don't have that. So just like that, your ejection port cover is installed. Here it is closed. And then when your bolt actually goes through it, it'll pop right open. Just like that. And just like that, we have installed our ejection port cover. Like I said, it's extremely easy, but still complicated at the same time. But that concludes our upper receiver build. Now, technically, we can talk about a charging handle in the BCG bolt carrier group, but that's kind of given. That can be swapped out, no tools needed at all. That's just up to you. What kind of charging handle you want to run, what kind of bolt you want to use doesn't really matter. But as far as putting everything together, that is your upper receiver. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And tune in next week. We're going to jump right back into the lower receiver. We have a few more parts. Then the gun will be built and then we go and test fire it. That'll be a fun day. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way, whenever I upload a video, you'll be notified. And I'll see you guys in the next one.